My valedictorian son suddenly stopped his graduation speech midway, then looked at my husband and said, "Now everyone will know what you did." On the night of my son's graduation, I expected tears, applause, and a few lighthearted jokes. What I never expected was for him to stop in the middle of his valedictorian speech, look directly at my husband, and turn graduation night into the moment our family's deepest secrets were exposed. I thought I knew exactly what my son, Caleb, was going to say in his speech. I was wrong. Caleb had worked tirelessly for years to earn that place on the stage. Not because I pushed him. In fact, I was always the one telling him to sleep more and study less. He was an extraordinary young man, honest, kind, and someone who made me proud every step of the way. After his father died when he was 11, academics became the one thing he could control amid all the chaos. Meanwhile, I worked extra shifts at the pharmacy just to keep food on the table and pay the bills. Caleb packed his own lunches, helped his little sister with homework, and still managed to bring home perfect grades. When I married Patrick, I convinced myself I was bringing stability back into my children's lives. He was organized, calm, and seemed perfect from the outside. He remembered appointments, handled paperwork, and fixed problems before I even noticed them. Everyone loved him. And for a while, so did I. Caleb tried hard to connect with him. He was always polite and respectful, but Patrick would visibly tense up whenever Caleb talked about his late father. At first, it was subtle. A brief look, an awkward silence, then a quick change of subject, as though he were doing everyone a favor. During Caleb's senior year, something changed. He stopped pinning college acceptance letters to the refrigerator. He stopped talking about scholarships. Whenever I asked about his plans after graduation, he would simply say, "I'm taking care of it." One day, I found him in the garage holding a torn envelope. The moment he saw me, he shoved it beneath a stack of old paint cans. "What's that?" I asked. "Nothing," he replied quickly. I should have pushed harder. Instead, I assumed it was just graduation stress. Then graduation night arrived. The gymnasium was packed with proud parents, tears, and excitement. When Caleb's name was announced as valedictorian, my daughter squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. Then he walked onto the stage in his graduation gown. For just a moment, he looked exactly like his father. The same posture, the same eyes, the same determination. His speech began beautifully. He thanked his teachers, he thanked his classmates. Then he thanked me. "My mom taught me how to keep moving forward," he said, "even when life throws obstacles in your path every single day." I immediately burst into tears. Then, suddenly, he stopped. Not because he forgot his words, not because he hesitated. He simply stopped. He looked down at the papers in his hand, then folded them in half. The entire gym fell silent. Slowly, he lifted his head and looked directly at Patrick sitting beside me. Not at me.
At Patrick. Then he said, "I'm sorry, but I can't pretend anymore." Patrick froze. Caleb reached inside his gown and pulled out a sealed envelope. His hand was shaking. Then he said, "Now everyone will know what you did." No one knew how to react. Even the principal took a step toward the stage before stopping. "Caleb," Patrick said quietly, "sit down." But Caleb ignored him. He opened the envelope and pulled out an old photograph. The moment I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. It showed a young Caleb sitting on his father's shoulders by a lake. Behind them stood a smiling woman, his grandmother, his late father's mother, the woman I hadn't seen in years. Holding up the photo, Caleb said, "I spent most of this year believing my dad's family no longer cared about me. Silence filled the room. I was told they had moved on. I was told they didn't want contact. I was told to stop chasing people who didn't want me." Then he looked back at Patrick. "A month ago, I found the graduation invitation I addressed to my grandmother. I thought I had lost it, but it was opened, torn, and hidden in the garage. A cold feeling ran through me. That's when I started looking. Enough, Patrick snapped. No, Caleb replied. Then he continued, Patrick never throws anything away. He keeps everything. And suddenly, everything began making sense. I found birthday cards from my grandmother in his office. They had already been opened. I found a check she sent for graduation photos. I found letters asking why I never responded. And I found a note that said, I'll be at your graduation whether you answer me or not. Your father would have wanted me there. I turned to Patrick. Tell me he's lying. But he wouldn't look at me. And in that moment, I knew. Caleb continued, I wanted to tell Mom first. But somehow every private conversation in our house always became the version of the story he wanted. Silence is how he always got away with it. Then he added, I couldn't call my grandmother from my own phone because Patrick checked the call logs. So 2 days ago, I borrowed a phone from a gas station and called her. His voice began to crack. I asked her if she had really stopped trying to contact me. He swallowed hard. She cried so much I could barely understand her. Then he pointed toward the back doors of the gym. She's here! Everyone turned, and there she was, standing with her hand over her mouth, crying. Patrick finally stood up. You don't understand adult matters, he said. Caleb answered immediately. I understand enough. I was protecting our family, Patrick argued. I was protecting our peace. Caleb stared at him. No, he said. You were protecting your place in it. His words hit the room like a thunderclap. No one defended Patrick. Not a single person. Caleb stepped off the stage and walked across the gym until he reached his grandmother. She wrapped her arms around him as if she were afraid he might disappear again. At that moment, he no longer looked like the perfect valedictorian. He looked like what he truly was, a 17-year-old boy, hurt, heartbroken, and finally reunited with someone who loved him. Then he brought her over to me. Holding my hand, she cried and said, I tried. I called. I wrote letters. I came by the house, but there was always some reason I couldn't see you. Suddenly, all the pieces fell into place. The calls that never reached me. The visits I was told had been canceled. Every time Patrick said, I've taken care of it, I realized he had been making decisions for all of us, controlling everything, not simply because he wanted power, but because he wanted to control who Caleb loved, who Caleb remembered, and who remained part of his life. After the ceremony, Caleb invited us to join his grandmother at a restaurant his father used to love. Patrick objected. We're not going anywhere with those people. I looked at him, picked up my purse, and walked away. That was my answer. At the restaurant, Caleb's grandmother handed him a small box. You were supposed to get this when you turned 18, she said. Inside was an old watch, photographs, and a letter from his father. He read it silently. Then tears filled his eyes. What did he write? I asked. Caleb replied, he wrote, never make yourself smaller just to make other people comfortable. No one spoke after that, because that single sentence explained everything. In the weeks that followed, Patrick tried to convince everyone that Caleb had destroyed the family, but Caleb refused to argue. Instead, he focused on repairing what had been broken. He visited his grandmother every week. He brought his sister along, and they always came home with new stories about their father, stories that would have been lost forever if not for Caleb's courage.
A month later, we all visited the lake where that old photograph had been taken. We stood in the exact same place. Me, Caleb, his sister, and his grandmother. We took a new photograph. Then Caleb looked out over the water and said, he tried to make me feel like I had no one. I smiled and replied, but you went out and found everyone. He nodded, and for the first time in a very long while, he looked like someone stepping confidently into his future, instead of hiding from it.